Today I'm going to share 3 of my favorite DIY projects from the minivan camper build. I'll show you how I made my 7-gallon off-grid shower system. I'll show you how I made this really versatile adjustable camper table that doubles as a storage shelf inside the van. Plus, whether you're trying to keep bugs out or just trying to get fresh air in, I'm going to show you why these cheap gutter guards and these magnetic window screens are the quickest and easiest way to do both. Plus, I'll show you the secret to keeping dry inside when it's raining outside. And spoiler alert, it's not an umbrella. First is this off-grid shower setup. It's complete with a water tank. It's got a quick connect hose and a privacy tent right here. And as you can see, it's got plenty of water pressure to take a shower. If you want a shower or bath setup in a small rig, the first thing you have to decide is where's it going to go? Do you have room for it? One benefit to a lot of minivans is the deep storage space you get by removing the third row seats. Here's a shot showing the wood frame and rear cabinets I created in the van. Ultimately, I used the area on the right to hold my portable power station, so I was left with the space to the left for the shower setup. You can see the blue water tank and hose here. This is a shot looking straight down into the cabinet. This is where I keep the tent pole for the shower curtain. I'll show you that later. And if you look right here, it's hard to see, but this is the bottom of the water pump mounted here in the very back. I'm using a high-end Seaflow water pump, 5.5 gallons per minute. It's expensive, but that's why the water pressure is so good. During the build, I tried mounting the pump in a few other places, as one does. And in case you're wondering, yes, you are supposed to mount these pumps upside down. For the water tank, I test fitted a bunch of different size water containers. I really wanted to use these tall baby blue narrow containers. They're 7 gallons each, which would be great. But when I closed the cabinet top, there wasn't room for any other storage. This short tank I have now leaves room to store the shower curtains and the water hose. And speaking of the hose, I knew I wanted an easy way to connect the hose to the tank without having to get inside the cabinet every time. When I'm in camp mode, my 12-volt freezer sits on top of the cabinet, so getting stuff in and out is a pain. So I bought this quick connect kit that comes with the hose, the sprayer, and a mountable dock. Most people probably mount the dock flush on the outside of their RVs. I wanted the connection inside, so I built a small wooden box to hold it, and that allowed me to run a hose from the dock to the tank and leave it connected. Before I mounted everything permanently, I tested the pump and the whole kit outside the van first to check for leaks. The little box for the dock also gave me a place to mount this waterproof power switch. I ran the wiring from the pump to the switch and from the switch to my 12-volt fuse panel about 6 feet away, located just inside the driver's side sliding door. A tip if you're doing your own wiring, make sure you have easy access to your connections and your fuse panel because something will come loose or stop working and you'll need to get to it. Now back to the quick connect. This goes into here. You just have to line up these little threads, lock it into place like that. You take the hose, turn on the power supply. I got a little bit of water there. Still building up pressure. This is how the private shower area looks once I have it set up. I have 2 shower curtains hanging on a 16-foot tent pole that I bend in half and thread into these tiny eye bolts on my roof rack. I have 2 on either side. Then I use one of my awning support poles to hold up the edge farthest from the van. That pole sits inside a plastic weight on the ground to keep it from moving, and I use spring clamps to hold the shower curtain in place. Here's a look at the water pressure. It's pretty good and definitely strong enough for a shower. The inside area is roomy. It measures 5.5 feet by 3 feet. And on a side note, this makeshift curtain rod is a great place to hang wet clothes to dry. Another great off-the-shelf solution is these cheap gutter guards that you can get at any hardware store. They're $3. They come in white or in brown, and they already have holes in them, perfect for airflow. And if you look really closely, you can see there's a micro mesh grilled in there. That keeps the bugs out. They're 36 inches wide, and because they're made of vinyl, they're super easy to cut. There are 3 ways to cut these to size. You can use a hacksaw with a new blade, but this is my least favorite option. It wiggles around too much and it's just not a great cut. You can cut these with a miter saw or a circular saw. This is super quick and straight, but power tools are expensive. So just get some cheap tin snips like these. Tin snips are a good choice for aluminum and vinyl gutters because they're precise and easy to use. Also keep in mind that these really only work on rear windows that have a flat top on them. You don't want to use them on something that's curved like this front window because you have to cut it down and it's really only 6 inches tall. So the problem is that once you cut it, that curve, it's going to be so flimsy, it's basically useless to you. So only use them on rear windows that are flat on the top. These are really easy to install though. You start with your window down and you're going to take the bottom side of the gutter guard here. It has a channel built into it, really thin, pretty much made for this window thing. And you're going to slide it on top and kind of just rest it there on top. All right. And then your job is to work it up, and you want to bend it in here. These sides have to bend inside your little rubber window frame, right? And then you're going to reach over to your window power switch while you're holding it down and pushing it in. So it's a little bit of a challenge, but not too bad. I'm going to reach over here to my window switch and go up and down. This is easier if you have a friend. I'm just going to keep nudging up. Okay, it popped out a little bit. It's all right. I'm going to lean in there, grab it. Sorry. Grab it there. If you have a friend, this is easier. Pull that back down. Okay. Nudge up a little more. And as I get to the top, I have these window deflectors. I'm going to talk more about these in a minute, but basically it's harder for me to see, but if you don't have these, it's real easy to see. So I put my hand on the inside and I touch up in here, and that's it. You want to kind of test the snugness and everything. And for most people, this is enough and you're done. That was super easy. But I have this 12-volt fan here that I use for ventilation and also as an exhaust fan for cooking. And you can see how low it hangs down. It is way lower than the gutter guard, which ends right about there. I need the window to come all the way down so I can get as much airflow as possible out that window. And for me, these gutter guards are not a good fit, and I went back to the drawing board. So with my window measurements in hand, I started searching online for magnetic window screens in hopes of finding pre-made ones that would be large enough to fit my sliding door windows. And as luck would have it, I found a match. These $16 sunroof screens were a perfect fit for my side windows. They fold up really small and they're super easy to put up and take off. They have a thin magnetic strip sewn into the edges and they stick to the metal on my car just fine, but I bought some rubber-coated magnets to put in the corners just to be sure they stay in place on windy days. I added eye bolts to them so I'd have an easy way to pull the magnets off. Another reason these screens are so awesome for minivans is that you can leave them in place and it doesn't affect opening or closing the door. Here's a tip to keep the rain out. You probably saw these earlier in the video, but I added these window deflectors made by WeatherTech to all of my side windows. They're custom made for every car. They reduce wind noise, they're easy to install, and my favorite thing, they let you keep your windows rolled down a few inches while it's raining without getting water inside the car. These window deflectors stick out a couple of inches from the window, so when it rains, the water falls outside of the window. And the best part of these magnetic window screens is that they snap on top of the deflector, so you get the best of both worlds. The fresh air goes in, the bugs stay out, and when the water hits the deflectors, it just trickles off outside the window. This is video from a recent rainy day. The window is rolled down lower than the window deflector, and the magnetic screen is in place on top of it. There is water on the screen outside, but inside, no water is getting on the window itself or inside the car. The inner edge of the deflector itself is also dry. There is a tiny bit of moisture on the screen itself, but because the screen stretches over the deflector, that water just drops down outside of the window. Now, of course, in a monsoon or a hurricane, the water would blow inside, but for the most part, it stays dry. And finally, here's how I made this height adjustable, super versatile camp table. My minivan is smaller than most, so I had to find creative ways to store things while in camp mode, and the space above the front seats was just being wasted. I knew I wanted a shelf up front, and I knew it needed to be flat, so I decided I'd use the steering wheel kind of as one of the base points for it. So the first thing I did is I went to the release latch under the column, and I flipped that, and the steering wheel comes down low, and I want this thing as low as possible because I want as much storage space above it as I can get. Next, I'll move the seat all the way forward, and I'm also going to lean it all the way forward. And that gets it pretty level with the steering wheel, and that's what I wanted. 2 points of level contact here. And remember to move your passenger seat all the way forward too. So now we're gonna measure from the front of the steering wheel to the back of the seat back, and it's 13 inches right here for mine, but you want your shelf to be wider because if it's too thin, it really limits what you can put on top of it. All right, and then the next measurement we're gonna do is from the edge of the driver's seat over here all the way across to the edge of the passenger seat. For me, it's 48 inches. So now we need this shelf. I bought this pre-cut project board. You can get these for 15 bucks from any hardware store. This one is 16 inches wide by 48 inches long, so I didn't have to cut it. So now you got your board cut. You want to balance it on top of the seat tops and the steering wheel. And you'll see here that it's solid, but it wiggles around, so we need to fix that. Now, if you have seat handles on the back of your seats, this next step is going to be all you need. If you don't have those, stick around. I'll have another step that'll help you out there. I experimented and I found that these 2x2 blocks, these are 3 inches long. Yours will be shorter or longer. This is the most solid way to kind of mount these. You want to have this on the bottom of your shelf and it will slide into the seat back handle. So first, to mark these, you want to slide it into the middle there. Then you want to slide your shelf over the top, okay? Then you're going to line it up there, make sure it's flush, and now we're going to mark it. So once you have it in position here, you want to trace around it on the bottom of the shelf. I've already done mine, but you want to trace around that 2x2 and make an outline, and then you want to do the same thing on the passenger side. Next, you want to put that shelf board on a flat surface. I've got mine on this workbench out here, and I have it clamped down. And for this, we're going to use 2.5-inch deck screws. Deck screws are awesome because they come with this little star bit, also called a Torx bit, and it really keeps it from stripping out. We also want to do pilot holes, and for that, you need a skinny drill bit, one a little bit thinner than the screw itself, okay? And now you're going to drill your pilot hole in the center of this outline that we just drew for the 2x2. I've already drilled mine here, but you want to drill that in the center and drill all the way through. You want to do that on both sides of the board. Now, also, you can pre-drill a hole into the 2x2. It's not necessary, but it helps out if you do have it pre-drilled. All right, once you have all your holes drilled, we're going to flip the board over. I like to drive the deck screw into the shelf until it peeks through about 1/2 inch on the bottom. Now I'll center the block on the tip of the screw. That's where that pilot hole comes in handy. Hold it steady and screw it in the rest of the way with a drill. And then we'll do the same thing for the block on the other end. Now I'm going to test this out on top of the seats. So I'm going to line my 2x2 legs up in the center of those handles, and you're going to push down flat, and you're going to lean over to the other side of the board. You're going to push it down flat. And then if it's solid and it doesn't wiggle too much, well, then you're done. You've got a DIY removable shelf. And if you don't have these handles in the back of your seats, still go ahead and put these 2x2 legs in. They'll keep it from moving forward. But on the front up here, you want to find some way to clamp your steering wheel to the shelf. If your shelf is still a little wiggly, or you want to put something heavier on this side, you can add a 2x2 leg as a support right here on the corner, and it can just rest on the seat. Now for the fun part, let's turn this shelf into a table. And for that, we need quick connect rails. You can get these aluminum support rails on Amazon. They come in pairs that lock together. One side is mounted in your rig, the other is mounted to the table, and it just slides over the top and locks into place. These are 30 inches long when you get them, but I suggest cutting them in half, so then you'll have two 15-inch sections. So now you've got two 15-inch rails, and you want to take the one with the larger curve at the top here, and you want to put it on the edge of the shelf. You're going to line it up here and make sure that curved part stays at the top. And you know it's the top because you got a leg over here, so you know that's the bottom. Anyway, you're going to line it up. I've already done this, but you basically are going to mark your holes and you're going to drill your pilot holes. For this, I just use number 8 stainless steel wood screws. So this is the rail we just mounted to the shelf, and this is the matching rail that we're going to mount inside the rig onto someplace solid. This is just a sample. Make sure the curved part of this rail is also mounted up, facing up. That way, when you hook your shelf onto that snapped rail, it just snaps together like that, and it makes a really tight fit. You might want to mount yours in front of the sofa, or maybe in the back to be used outside while your hatch is open, or put it somewhere else entirely. Now that we have our rails attached, the last thing we need to do is add a table leg. A lot of people use a folding adjustable leg made for RV tables, and those work just fine. But I wanted something more versatile. I call this a magic leg, but it's really just a monopod that photographers use to shoot their video and their photos. And the thing that makes this one so cool is that it has these quick release levers, and you can make it any size and lock it into position super quick. These are only $15 for the cheap ones, but make sure you get one with a round top on it and not a rectangular one like this one. We need the round top for this next part. It'll make it easier. So now we need to measure the diameter of the monopod, and this one is between 1¼ and 1½ inches wide. So I've got my 2x4 clamped down here, and I've got a pilot hole drilled right here, and I've got it marked off at 4 inches. That's where we're going to cut it once we're done, but we need it longer right now to stay in place. And I'm going to line up my hole saw. This is a 1½ inch blade. I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to go all the way through. Okay, so now we're going to mount that block at the end, but just make sure you mount it on the bottom side, on the opposite side of your rail. So you come down here, and it doesn't really matter where you mount this block, but just somewhere in this area on this end. And you want to drill a pilot hole and make sure it goes all the way through this block and all the way through the shelf also. So I flipped the shelf over, and now we're going to do just what we did before. I've got the block down there, and I've lined it up on the pilot holes. These are 1¼ inch lathe screws, and I'm going to drive them through down into the block. All right, there it is. Now it's in place. We just have to go test it out. So now I'm going to hook this up on my side quick connect rail, and first I lean it up, get it snapped in there, and then I'm going to pivot it down there. Okay, I grab my monopod, slide it into that hole we made, and lock it down. And that's it. We now have a DIY shelf turned into a camper van table. Let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.